Hey, what's up, everybody? All right, we are live. We are live. Hold on one second, guys. Like I made that right. Trying to just type this up and send this out so everybody can see me in the chat room. Everyone that can see me live. How you doing? I know it's late. It's 11:45 here Central Standard Time. I want to know if anybody is on the East Coast. Anybody on the East Coast? Anyone on the East Coast, if you're in the chat room, I'm just wondering about your safety with the hurricane that's coming out there, Hurricane Florence. Uh, if you have not evacuated, please evacuate. Take this seriously. It's a Category 4 storm. So I certainly keep you all in my thoughts and prayers if you're out there in the Carolinas or anywhere on the eastern seaboard and this storm is headed your way. Please be safe. I know what it's like dealing with Katrina. And though in actuality, what we had was the levee system failure. And it's probably even more sinister than that because everyone talks about the levees being blown. I've detailed it in my book, but Katrina, eyes have not seen, ears have not heard. Don't want to do a plug in. I'm sorry, but yeah, I wanted to mention that. But at any rate, please be safe with your families and friends. Uh, take care of yourselves. Take care of your surroundings if you're out there. So, who's in the chat room? Come on, somebody say something. Whoever liked this. I got one person watching. I had two earlier. We're waiting to build an audience up. No, it's late, guys. We won't be too long. So, I'm gonna put some links here in the chat room. We'll make it do what it do. Let's see if I can find it. You know, I was actually trying to type and put up the live event on through YouTube, but it had everything set up late, like for tomorrow at 11:45 instead of 11:45 now, which is what I was trying not to do. You know, I wanted everything to be here, and I actually had all the links, everything that I was gonna, what I was prepared for. Now I got to retype and post everything again so everybody can see, I guess, what we're talking about. But let me go ahead and just gather what I was looking for, and I'm gonna put it in the chat box. Hopefully, we got some new people coming in. A lot going on, guys. All right. So earlier today, I talked to a brother, and I'm putting a link to his page. His name is Stacy Brown. Mr. Brown is a news reporter, Black Press USA. He lives out in the East Coast, I believe, in Washington, D.C. And I had a chance to talk with him because he talked about a letter that I sent off and a petition that we've started. And if you haven't been on YouTube, you've seen our sister Nicole. Shout out to her from Nicole's View. She, and along with several others, including myself, we came up with the idea for this petition to look into the principles involved in the Cosby case, in particular the district attorney, Kevin Steele, and the judge in this case, Judge Steve, is it William or Steve O'Neill, I believe? I believe it's Judge Stephen O'Neill. Yes, that's it. Judge O'Neill is actually, this is another article thing that we're going to be talking about. But to get back to what we were saying, if those that don't know what's been going on with Cosby, he was obviously, you've seen my videos, so you may be familiar about Bill Cosby being found guilty on 3 counts of sexual assault and against Andrea Constand. And on top of that, there's been supposed to be a sentencing hearing in the next 2 weeks. If you have not already, please sign the petition that Nicole has posted online. about investigating Bruce Cantor. I'm sorry, not Mr. Cantor, Mr. Kevin Steele, and Judge Stephen O'Neill. A lot of information that you guys don't know that has come out recently, and I wanted to share this with you and tie it with the brother Stacey Brown. He's written a couple articles, and a main article he actually talked with me about uh, was how now Cosby's legal case should be thrown out. Now, if you don't know, and I have the link to the article in the chat box. What apparently has happened is that there were doctored or lost tapes, and an apparent, I'm reading the article, an apparent and open conspiracy has led multiple legal experts to conclude that Bill Cosby's upcoming sentencing on assault convictions should be postponed, if not thrown out entirely. America should be outraged, said Dallas attorney Paul Saperto. This kind of information is called Brady evidence, which means evidence that tends to show that a person is innocent. He's right. Brady evidence is that evidence that we call as attorneys where it's exculpatory, meaning that any evidence that would be favorable to a defendant, even if it destroys the prosecutor's case, they have a duty to turn that over. A subsequent case to Brady is what we call Kyle's, and Kyle's was actually a murder case that happened right here in New Orleans that went all the way up to the United States Supreme Court. And basically, any evidence that they get, even if a person, a defendant, is so-called guilty, the prosecutors, anything that's favorable that is brought to their attention, and it may destroy their case, it may or may not, but anything that's discoverable and favorable to the defendant, they have an ethical duty to turn that information over. Apparently, from the information I read, and I'm going to go on with my article, this is from the Washington Informer that Brother Stacey Brown wrote. He said, like numerous others who reacted to a black press exclusive on Monday that revealed the tape played in court during Cosby's trial in April may have been doctored, tampered with, or parts not entered into evidence. Saperto said he was disgusted by prosecutors in the case. Nationwide, prosecutors have an independent legal duty to disclose this kind of evidence, but too often this goes ignored, and the consequences are generally little more than a slap on the wrist. If state prosecutors knew about this doctoring, they ought to themselves be convicted of felonies and sentenced to prison. Of course, this probably won't happen. Sadly, the officials charged with protecting the public are often the biggest violators and virtually immune. Amen. He is 100% correct. The problem that we have and what we're seeing now, especially when you look at the young brother that was shot out in Dallas, is that we don't have prosecutors that are willing to take control. And even when we get black people in positions of power, when you're talking about judges, when you talk about police chiefs, prosecutors, in Dallas, you have a black police chief. Yet this young woman is not, this woman who shot the brother, her name is Amanda Geiger. Geiger, excuse me. She is not being charged with murder. She's being charged with what? Manslaughter. Okay, she broke into this man's apartment and is only getting Amber Geiger. Excuse me, I said Amanda. It's Amber Geiger. Okay, she's not getting charged with murder. She's getting charged with manslaughter, and she broke into this man's house. She broke into this man's house. Thank you, Lindell. She broke in this man's house, and new information is coming out more and more that doesn't even, her story doesn't even add up. For instance, there were the attorney, Esley Merritt, seems like a good brother. He stated that there are eyewitnesses who said they heard her telling him to open the door. She said the door was slightly open, according to her earlier reports. So which one was it? You know, on top of that, if she came into his house illegally, didn't announce she was an officer, and even though the cops are saying she was off duty, she was in her uniform. And to that brother, if he had opened it, he would have thought, well, she must be on duty to see me. And there's more information coming out that She was a next door neighbor, a neighbor that lived right downstairs and had made noise complaints in the past. See, that information is now coming out, and more is going to come out each day that passes. But it seems like this is becoming, it could have been a premeditated murder, shooting, homicide. Guys, I'm sorry, I'm speaking all over the place. I'm not pronouncing my words. Let me state that again. This looks like this could be premeditated murder. Yeah.
Already come forward to say that they heard this officer pounding on the door and demanding to be let in. We find those independent witnesses to be very credible. And if the door is open, there would have been no need for that.
According to the warrant, Geiger saw Jean's large silhouette in the dark apartment and believed she had encountered a burglar. She then drew her firearm and gave verbal commands that were ignored before shooting Jean. But Jean's family says they believe there's more to the story.
I'm not satisfied that we have all the answers. And the number one answer that I want is what happened.
Officer Geiger is now out on bail. The district attorney says the manslaughter charge she's facing could be upgraded pending the investigation.
Could be upgraded pending the investigation. Now, another thing too, she couldn't claim stand your ground because she wasn't in her home. That stand your ground wouldn't apply, Lindell. But at any rate, you know, I'm surprised. I'm not surprised she's not fired, and I'm not surprised that it's not upgraded to a murder charge. Of course, it can happen a little bit later, but you know, I doubt it given the climate we're in. This is in Texas, which we know is a very Republican, conservative state. You know, Second Amendment all the way, and I'm Second Amendment myself too. You know, and that's another thing. Black people, we should look into more and more. I'm not talking about going out murder people, and you all know that. I'm not advocating that, but there's nothing wrong with, you know, going to a shooting range, buying a gun, and protecting your house. Because, you know, he would have been well within his rights to defend himself because this woman apparently was coming into his home, you know, unwelcomed. You know, obviously she was not invited and she tried to get in. And something should have rang a bell when you heard somebody coming in your apartment and you knew it wasn't your home. You knew right there if you're looking in and you see things that don't belong to you. You know, I just don't buy this. So I'm getting sidetracked, but to get back to the Cosby case, as I talked about the exculpatory evidence, it's coming out more and more. It seems that both the prosecutor and district attorney in this case colluded with each other. As further information goes, and I'm going to read another article. I told you about the audio. We talked about the audio recording, but there was another article and a motion that was filed on Monday by Cosby's attorneys. And I have it right here. They're looking to recuse the judge. Now, if you remember, many of you may or may not know, but Tom Mesereau, when he was the attorney in the second trial, he had filed a motion to recuse Judge O'Neill because O'Neill apparently was his wife at the time, his wife who's still here with him. I'm saying they're still married, but his wife was and is a sexual assault counselor, and she has received monies apparently from the groups that were out there protesting to get Bill Cosby. Now, he denied the recusal, and he stated his wife had nothing to do with what was going on in this proceeding. But more and more, it looks like that is not the case. And I'm pulling up an article here. You know, Camille Cosby, wife of Bill, she has filed, stated a letter stating they want to see the judge recused. Now, this is from 6. Okay? So I'm going to read this to you. The judge who oversaw Bill Cosby's retrial and conviction on sex assault charges should step aside ahead of his sentencing later this month. The disgraced comedians, and notice the keywords that they use in these far left articles, the disgraced comedian, you see things like that, legal team, and his long-suffering wife claimed Tuesday. Montgomery County Judge Stephen O'Neill declined to recuse himself from the Entertainers retrial on 3 counts of aggravated indecent sexual assault, indecent assault, earlier this year. It's been a long day, guys. But Cosby's lawyer, Joseph Green, filed a motion Tuesday asking the jurist to reconsider his previous decision and grant the defense team a hearing on the issue before the 81-year-old is sentenced September 24th. In his motion, Green says O'Neill is unfit to oversee his client's sentencing because of a long-time political and personal beef O'Neill allegedly has with former district attorney of Montgomery County, Bruce Castor, who declined to criminally prosecute Cosby. Now, what they will go, and I'm looking in here in detail, so I'm going to skip some things and get to it. Cosby's case was dropped by Castor in 2005, and he entered into a non-prosecuting agreement with Cosby's former lawyers. Henceforth, this case should never have gone to trial because there's a promise or an agreement. And while they're saying the agreement may have not been in a formal written document, it was sent via email that there would be no prosecution. And henceforth, because there's no prosecution, Andrea Constand's lawyers file and request a deposition, and they actually subpoenaed Bill Cosby to give testimony because there would be no prosecution and Bill Cosby did not incriminate himself. His Fifth Amendment privilege was never waived. So it still applied, and they used, in this case, his civil deposition to try and prosecute him on a criminal matter, which should never have happened. And that's another reason for appeal, but let's get into Judge O'Neill for a second. Okay. Castor was later unseated by current Montgomery County DA Kevin R. Steele, who filed criminal charges against, quote, they put air quotes, America's Dad, in December 2015. O'Neill ruled ahead of Cosby's first trial in 2016 that jurors would not learn about the non-prosecution agreement, finding that Castor was not a credible witness. The court should have disqualified itself, Green writes, due to the judge's personal knowledge of and bias against Mr. Castor. That this judge would hide his bias and decide that his rival, the former DA, cannot be trusted to give truthful testimony shows that the judge let his own personal feelings override Mr. Cosby's right to a fair trial. Camille's statement reads, if a judge would do this in a case as high profile as this one, then he cannot be trusted to be a fair judge for anyone else either. Castor and O'Neill have been political rivals since they ran against one another for DA in 1999, according to the court filing. Castor allegedly had an ex-gal pal of O'Neill's appear at a political debate in order to rattle the now judge during the event. The unnamed woman had been a staffer at the DA's office, the papers state. When Judge O'Neill learned that the female staffer had been ordered to appear at the debate, O'Neill was angry and confronted Castor, who O'Neill believed has unfairly and underhandedly abused his position as first district attorney, says the motion. The relationship between Castor and O'Neill became increasingly acrimonious and has remained to this day. O'Neill did not obviously comment to this, and this is on page 6. I'm putting this in the chat room as well. Can I post a, if you go, I'd have to look at the actual article, but it's on ScriptBid. Let me try and find it right quick if I can. I'm trying to find the article. Let's see here, guys. Hold on a second for me. But I'm going to talk about this while I'm trying to search for it. Yeah, so basically what this means is that this judge had an apparent bias, and you can tell against Mr. Cosby, but apparently had a bias against the district attorney who declined to press charges from the beginning. And being that that is the case, he should have recused himself. He had a conflict of interest even with his wife being a sexual assault counselor who's received money from groups that were out there protesting to have Bill Cosby's awards rescinded, that were out there protesting him. You also had, you know, women, exposing themselves like the stupid ass girl that was on the Cosby Show. See, here's the thing. That's interesting. This is how it's so fake is that you have someone that obviously was hired by, some of these groups. I believe it was Antifa, Anifa. I don't remember who the group is. The group is per se that young girl, well, she's older than me, so she's not young, but she came out with her, her titties out, topless, and ran at Cosby, trying to scare him, all tattooed up, with all of these pasties and postings on. And I just never understood the point that women who don't want to be, victimized, yet they come out there acting like they're acting ridiculous. Like, it's just insane that you would see something like that. You're asking for women to be respected and not looked at as sex objects, but you come out with your titties out. I mean, let's just be real with that. I mean, does that strike you as odd and wrong? Now, all of this that's going on, I just want to say this too. You had, and this is something that brother Stacey Brown pointed out, there was also jurors on here, two jurors 11 and 12, that he cited that were allegedly talking to outside sources about a book deal. And if you go to blackpressusa.com, they talk about it. He also filed a motion, this is Cosby's lawyer, to keep a lot of these women that they want to talk during the sentencing. That's another thing. The judge requested that the sentencing hearing go from the 24th and the 25th. And our district attorney filed a motion to allow other accusers to come and give testimony like they did with the Larry Nassar case, when half of the women who spoke had nothing to do with what Larry Nassar was charged with. Larry Nassar, if I'm not mistaken, was facing child pornography charges at first in federal court. And then he had the molestation charges, and they brought all of these women out, all of these women from Hallie Reisman and some of the gymnasts that he supposedly, assaulted. They all gave testimony. Now, I'm not saying he's innocent or guilty. I'm pretty sure he probably did some of those things, but do I believe he did all of it? I'm not quite sure. I don't know enough of the case. I do know that there was a large settlement with Michigan State University about this for over $500 million. Doesn't mean it didn't happen, but I think that a lot of these allegations and things that we're seeing come out are extortion schemes. And on top of that, did you know today, Les Moonves? How you doing, baby? By the way, that's the order link that I just put in the chat box, Lundell. You had asked for it. That is the actual link. You can look up and see the motion that Cosby's attorneys filed. It was called a motion for disclosure, recusal, and for reconsideration of recusal. It's very extensive and deep, and he's filed even motions to keep these women from talking at the sentencing, because a lot of it is not even relevant. It's not even relevant, and it's outside the statute of limitations, most of these cases. In fact, that gives me more reason and credence to believe the judge was colluding with the prosecutor because he allowed this sentencing hearing to go on for 2 days. He set it in advance back in April after Bill was found guilty to the 24th and 25th. And now you have the prosecutor coming in stating that he wants additional accusers to come give testimony. And these women were not even there at the trial. Some of, the accusers that he even had testify at the trial. I'm talking about the prosecutor. Their allegations were outside 35 years. Janice Dickinson said it happened in 82. And of course, she was so fucking high, she didn't even know. I don't even think she knew what drugs he gave her. Yeah, it is binding. Most judges, and lawyers, I'm sorry, most judges, when there's an agreement, or even if there's a plea deal, I mean, they'll read it on a record, the plea deal. But of course, there was no plea deal in this case because Cosby, it never got billed. He never went to trial. But if there's an agreement between the parties, and it doesn't even need the judge's approval at times. The prosecutors are the most powerful people in the courtroom. Many people don't realize that because the prosecutor is the one that decides whether they're going to take a case on or not. It's not the judge. The judge, obviously, he gets say and pull and he referees the courtroom. But if the prosecutor doesn't want to go on with the case, they have the right to drop it if they choose to. That's their discretion. Hey, what's up, Deep Mind Unraveled? Any of y'all know Harvey Superboy from your world? If you do, send me a link or something to his email because I really like to get in touch with that brother. Anybody that knows him. Yeah, man. So so you all read those articles, but another thing too that we talked about, Mr. Brown and I, he was at the trial when all of this was going on, and the prosecutor, the assistant DA that was there, she was a black woman. When they were doing voir dire, she made the statement that of something along the lines like, "That's enough blacks on the jury," or something along the lines, "We got enough blacks." And she said this out loud for everyone in the court to hear. And even told me the judge heard it. Okay, that's something inappropriate. That's called the Batson issue. Batson is a Supreme Court case from the 80s where you are not allowed as, prosecutors and even defense attorneys, but mostly it's the prosecutors because they are the ones that try to pick, the jury that best suits them so they can get a guilty verdict. And they try to keep black people off these jurors a lot. That's why it is important in this regards to register to vote so that you can be on a jury and serve on a jury and learn the law. It's important to do stuff like that. But anyway, to get tied in with Cosby, this black ADA made the comments like there's enough blacks on this jury or something along those lines that was very inappropriate and said it out loud. And to tie it with Batson, it's a issue under the 14th Amendment. Obviously, we have a right to due process and equal protection under equal protection under the law. You cannot use race as a factor in striking a juror from a jury, a potential jury. You can't do that. And that statement was highly inappropriate. In fact, he had it confirmed to me. He spoke with the DA and he said he understood. This is what Kevin Steele actually said this. He understood why some black people would be angry if they heard that. They had a right to do that. He confirmed it with me. We got to get him on the show too pretty soon, and he can tell you more because he was at the trial every day from what he explained to me. So shout out to Brother Stacy Brown. Subscribe to Black Press USA. I believe he also writes for the Washington Informer because that's where I have this other article, Throughout Cosby Conviction, Legal Experts Say. I was reading from that earlier. Yeah, it's yeah. A lot of people didn't know about it, and the reason why you don't know is because mainstream media tries to keep it from you. They are there to push an agenda. You got to realize this: media is not about reporting facts anymore. There was a time the media and even Tom Mesereau talked about this when I spoke to him on the radio program a few weeks ago. There was a time when CNN was well respected uh, in news, but now when you look at it, it's a joke. It's basically Fox News without the racism. Well, let me say it again. It's Fox News without the conservatism. Basically, they push an agenda, it's propaganda. MSNBC too as well. Everything is pro-Democrat. We got to realize we don't have any allies until they start pushing a black agenda and they talk about our issues. Why do we support them? Do not support them. There was a lot going on, yeah. And on top of that, the witnesses that testified, the one black lady, her name is Shaylin Lancer, I believe. She's the one that's crying all the time. If you saw her on Dateline MSNBC, she has a conviction for prostitution and for falsifying a police report. And the judge, to my understanding, did not allow that conviction to be brought up by the defense in cross-examination. They filed a motion in court that they wanted to bring this conviction up, and the judge would not allow it. He also didn't allow witnesses to testify on Cosby's behalf. So there was a lot of bullshit that was going on in that trial. Most people don't even remember. And I'm going to give you another link to it. You can look at the Melanoic Nation. This is Tariq Nasheed, his website. He did a detailed description. He didn't do every Cosby accused, every Cosby accuser, because there's obviously too many. But yeah, Shaylin Lancer, that's her name. You got to look at these women. Okay. Now, my brother, Drew Hepkins, he's dissected most of these women. So I wouldn't want to go back and forth over it. You can check out his videos, but Shaylin Lasher, excuse me, that's her name. She claimed in 1986 in a press conference with Gloria Allred, where Allred demanded Cosby pay $100 million. You see extortion? That's extortion. $100 million in damages for Lasha and other alleged victims. This was in 2014. Bill Cosby hadn't even gone to trial. There was no criminal prosecution against him, and she's asking for $100 million. You still don't think this is a money hustle? Public records show that Lasha has a long criminal rap sheet. She's been arrested for crimes including false reporting and prostitution. She was arrested in 2007 in Arizona with false reporting to law enforcement and trespassing. She pled guilty on both counts. Now, why that is important on the false reporting is that you can always attack a witness's credibility. That's in the code of evidence. And especially if they have a conviction for something like falsifying a police report, almost basically committing, it's perjury, but it's not technically perjury because she wasn't testifying under oath. But if you give a sworn affidavit and you falsify, and based on that sworn affidavit, you falsify information to give to the police, knowing it was a lie, then yeah, it basically is perjury. And essentially you can challenge that person's credibility because jurors never will trust someone who's a convicted liar, but yet Judge O'Neill did not allow this information in. So there was a lot of shenanigans that was going on. Let me give you the link to that so everybody can please take a look at it, and I'm not making all of this stuff up. Chloe Goins, she's another liar. She said that Bill Cosby drugged and sexually assaulted her at the Playboy Mansion in 2008. Not to mention, also, legal counsel for Cosby had stated on the date of the alleged assault, August 9, 2008. You got to watch when they give dates. There are flight and telephone records that place Cosby in New York City, approximately 2,500 miles from the mansion. And Chloe Goins has been arrested for charges of soliciting prostitution in Vegas, but she's considered credible. Now, she didn't testify at the trial. Who else? P.J. Matson. Now, this is interesting. P.J. Matson claims Bill Cosby sexually assaulted her in '79 while she was working as a Playboy bunny at the Playboy Club in Chicago. But this is not the first time Matson had accused a famous celebrity in a high-profile case. She was a surprise witness against sports announcer Marv Albert in his 1997 trial that involved another accuser testifying that he bit her and tried to force her to perform oral sex in a Dallas hotel room in '94 while he was wearing women's panties and a garter. I actually remember this case, but you see, Marv Albert got a second chance, and he was actually accused of sodomy as well. Matson claimed she escaped by pulling off his toupee. Albert maintained after trial that Matson's accusations were a complete fabrication. Marv Albert's original accuser, Vanessa Persach, accused Matson of writing my comment and joining in the allegations against Albert only for the money, according to a 1997 New York Daily News article. You all should really look at this. Like, this is ridiculous that this was even allowed in court. Janice Dickerson, she was allowed to testify. We already know the story of Janice Dickerson. There was a talent manager named Don Gibble who came out and said she's been lying about the Cosby allegations. And interesting enough, Don Gibble was the manager, from what I'm reading, for Beverly Johnson. He accused her of lying because Beverly Johnson even accused her ex-husband, father of their child, of molesting their daughter to try and get him her for custody. Yeah. So you all be vigilant and be alert. A lot is happening now in the world, and we got to pay attention to it. Oh, jeez. Got white on my mouth. Sorry, guys. Excuse me. I had a mayonnaise sandwich. Ugh. But at any rate, guys, that's it for me tonight. I'm going to get me some rest. I've had a long day. I do want to share with you, I'm going to be doing another live video real soon. I think we're going to bring Stacey Brown on here, do an interview with him and chop it up, because he has a lot of information on the Cosby case that some of you may and may not have heard. It's the things that I've presented, and it would be good to have him come on the show and talk about his experiences. Another thing, too, I have a new Patreon account. That's some of the updates I've been doing. I've been trying to get to it. I've just been busy, but you can check out my account. I actually will post a link to it now. I'm going to be doing some new videos on there, exclusive content. I'll also be doing blogs, typing some things you all can look at. So please check it out in the near future. So we're doing big things, man. But yeah, you all be safe and be blessed. Yeah, Lindell, it is crazy. But, well, it's not even that it's new accusers. What it is that they're bringing on all of these other accusers to come in who spoke on the news, spoke on television. You saw the stories from the case against Cosby, the Cosby women on A&E specials like that. They're bringing all of these women in, and their allegations, some of them go back from the 1960s. I know Christy Rulli, who was interviewed by the Son of Man from the Nation of Islam. She spoke with the minister there, and the minister, the Son of Man, and she was asked, well, did Bill Cosby rape you? She's like, no. Well, what are you saying he did? Well, he drugged me at a party at his house where his baby was, his new baby girl, and she brought a friend, and they were drinking. They drank something. He gave them something to drink. They passed out. They saw their tops and panties were off, but they said, well, he didn't rape me. Told her boyfriend about it. He laughed about it. So, I don't know what to say. Excuse me. Harvey is strong. Sorry, I don't have his email info. Well, I'll find a way to get in touch with him. Maybe Nicole might know. I don't know exactly. I think you can email people here on YouTube. But yeah, I want you to also check out the petition that Nicole has. From Nicole's view, she's been broadcasting it. So please check it out. We need some signatures before the 25th. We have 485 signatures. We're trying to get to 1,000. Please sign that petition. Lindell, anybody, everybody in the chat room. Who else is in the chat room? Deep Mind Unraveled. You still in here, girl? Yeah, but y'all check out that petition, please. Anyway, that's it for me. It's been a long night. I got to get some rest, guys. You all be safe, be blessed, and one love. Peace. God bless you all.